Almost as long as the sport of rally has existed, there's been night stages, which means racing in the dark, and that presents its own unique challenges and problems. And one of those is actually lighting the road ahead. Before I get into the solution, let's have a bit of a look at the history and the problem. With older cars, say from the 60s, 70s and even the 80s, they had largely metal bumpers at the front, which allowed for bolting of extra lights to the cars quite easily. The problem was with that, it wasn't always very quick to be able to fit them to the cars, and adjustment was also an issue. Another problem was that the brackets weren't always as solidly mounted as they needed to be, particularly for the weight of those lights. And so quite often the bumper would flex, which would cause the light to jiggle and cause a distraction to the driver. It really wasn't until the late 80s or the early 90s before there was another solution to just hard mounting the lights, and it was driven by the World Rally Championship and the manufacturers. It was in the form of light pods. Now, light pods themselves were made of composite materials or fiberglass, and the lamps were actually bolted in and they were individually adjustable inside that. However, the pod itself could be quickly and easily removed from the car. Light pods, though, do have their drawbacks. Well, it's like anything, there's no such thing as a perfect product. One of the big issues with light pods is that you have to mount them to the bonnet somehow, and generally cars are not designed to have lights fitted that high, so you have to drill some sort of holes in the bonnet and either bolt or use some sort of fixing system. So that was the first problem. The second problem with light pods is, and it's to do with the lights themselves, and here you can see in this video, this is actually of our own car. We're racing through the forest here, and the lights provide 4 bright patches straight ahead of the car. The 2 in the center are actually pencil beams, and the 2 on the side are spread beams to try and spread the light out. However, it's still pointing directly forwards. And when you're coming up to a corner and you've got to turn that corner, there's a split second where you're not able to see anything. Now, I know some of the pundits amongst you would say, hey, but that's part of the skill of rallying, stop complaining, and away you go. However, for a lot of people, not having the peripheral vision and you're entering the corner and midway through the corner is a drama. And that's where LED light bars come in. Over the last 10 or 15 years, LED light bar technology has improved dramatically. There used to be somewhat of a novelty some years ago. These days, every second four-wheel drive has got them bolted to the front of the car, if not 2 or 3 of them, and usually one on the roof as well. However, they really haven't come to the fore in rallying as such yet. And the issue really revolves around mounting. Light bars are designed to be mounted to a bull bar or roo bar, something fairly solid. And of course, most cars have plastic front ends in them, so it's not very easy to mount them. Now, before I get too far into this, I want to say that I'm actually talking about the mounting system here, not the light bars themselves. I kind of want to push that to one side. Why? Because there's so many different types of light bars on the market. You can buy everything from about $50 to $200, $300, $400 for a light bar. And therefore, there's hundreds of reviews of different types of light bars online already. So I'm not going to recover that ground. What I am going to do though is show you how we managed to mount the lights and make a good go of it. Enter custom-made LED light bar mounting brackets. These are specifically designed to be able to mount light bars to bonnets. They come in single and double row. They're made of stainless steel, they're laser cut, and they're pre-drilled, ready for use. Now, these brackets weren't actually designed specifically for rally cars. They're actually designed for road cars or non-rally cars. And the reason behind that is because there's been a huge surge in the popularity of tarmac or gravel type sprint events where road cars can be used. And I don't blame people. They don't want to drill holes in their bonnet to mount pods or to mount light bars or try and find some other mounting solution. So instead, these brackets were designed to have magnets underneath them. The light bar bolts into them, and then you can stick them down literally on the bonnet with strong magnets, and then run the wiring into the engine bay, use your lights for competition, and then after you're finished, take them off the car with absolutely no trace whatsoever. Fantastic idea. We're actually taking the magnets off and bolting them solidly to the bonnet of rally cars. In this case, Balance Motorsports provided us the double row brackets and 2 slimline 300mm or 12-inch LED light bars. We decided first of all to get onto one of our customers' cars that's in the workshop at the moment and have a look and see what the mounting system might be like. We were actually planning to fit them to a WRX, and that poses its own unique challenges because the Subarus have a bonnet scoop that requires air to rush over the bonnet and feed the intercooler. That meant that we couldn't obstruct the airflow into the bonnet scoop, And so we laid this out just to check and see what the clearances would be like. As it turns out, there's plenty of clearance underneath the bottom light bar and between the top and bottom light bars for air to rush through. Next step was fitting it to the bonnet itself. Now we want to make these quick release. Of course you could bolt these on. However, we went for nutserts or riv nuts and then drilled those neatly, mounted it up and then bolted it down. It means in a rally, it only takes us a few minutes to be able to get these on and off the car. Fortunately, all the wiring was already in place on this car because it previously has had spotlights on it. So we just had to change the plugs over to a Deutsch type connector and plug them in. The next step was just to check to make sure that it actually mounted solidly and there was no jiggle in any of the lights and the brackets wouldn't flex. And yes, finally the moment of truth. And I know, people are going, well, how well did they work? How well did they work? You're screaming at the screen, I can see it now. Yes, they did work fine. However, like I said earlier, this is not a review of the light bars, so each light bar is different. Now this particular rally car doesn't have an in-car camera setup in it, so it didn't film while I was driving. However, we stopped here and held the phone up and filmed, and you can see that that tree is around 150 metres away and it's well illuminated. Also, the peripheral vision, which is what we were after, is perfect. And you can barely see the light bars themselves. The mountings were great. Now the scoop on this car is actually higher than a standard scoop. For a GC, it's actually like a later model GD or Spec C type scoop. However, when we got the level out and checked the heights with the standard scoop, it actually worked out to be still under the height of the standard scoop and still allowed plenty of air in. So the vision impairment will be very little with this setup. So what's my overall verdict? Well, the brackets themselves, they're lightweight, they're strong and they're easy to mount. The light bars, however, I'm going to leave up to the individual because you can either buy the different types of packages through Balanced Motorsport or buy your own, and either way, it depends on what you buy. So hopefully I've enlightened you on rally car lights, pun intended. Thanks very much to Sean from Balanced Motorsport for the lights and the brackets. Awesome job, mate. Keep up the great work. I'll put a link in the description below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you again soon. Cheers.